Hello, Congressional Black Caucus Scholarship Committee and allied financial representatives. My name is Gabriella Lee, and I'm a senior peace and justice major with a minor in communication at Villanova University. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, and beginning in the fall of 2023, I'll be pursuing my Juris Doctorate degree at UCLA School of Law in Los Angeles, California. When I first read this prompt, what are some of my greatest accomplishments? The first thing that came to my mind is my figure skating career. I started skating when I was about 4 years old when my parents put me in learn to skate lessons at Lloyd Center Ice Rink, which was in the middle of a mall in downtown Portland. I don't remember much about first getting on the ice, being as little as I was, but from what my friends and family tell me, I got on the ice and fell in love with it almost immediately. I continued skating from that point on, and by the time I was 6 or 7, I was competing competitively. The reason that this stands out to me as one of my accomplishments is because I feel as though it was one of the biggest things I've overcome in my life thus far. Growing up in this sport, it was one of the very few sports where there was almost no black athletes. Being a young black girl who already lived in a not very diverse city, it made even more of an impact being in a sport where there didn't feel like there was much of a community for me. I think the first time I really noticed this is when we were going shopping for tights one day. It was me and my mom, and we had to go buy some tights before a competition because back in those days, girls and women were not allowed to wear pants in figure skating, so we had our dress and we needed tights to go underneath. And I remember driving with my mom from store to store to store because no store or company seemed to make tights that matched the color of my skin. They were all a lot lighter, a lot paler, and I didn't really recognize it as this at the time, but now I look back and realize it was one of those first things that signaled that this sport wasn't catered towards me, or even worse, powers that be in the sport of figure skating didn't want little girls like me involved. This, along with other things like having your hair slicked back as being one of the quintessential parts of the figure skater look, were some of the things that I began to notice and feel as though I didn't fit in with this picture that was supposed to be a competitive elite figure skater. I also learned about skaters like Surya Bonaly, who had trials and tribulations in her career and spoke vocally about the fact that no matter how well she ever did, she felt like she could never get to the top of that podium because different powers that be in skating always seemed to have a plan set out for athletes that didn't look like us to get to the top. Although what I've talked about here are a little bit more of the aesthetic aspects, there was really much bigger of a feeling of isolation that I experienced in the sport of figure skating. Going to competitions and never seeing judges or coaches or fellow athletes or even volunteers at competitions that looked like me led me to feeling super lonely in a sport that was already not a team sport, and one in which I was head over heels in love with. And so it created at that time a very kind of strong dichotomy between having a love and a passion for something, but also feeling like I didn't belong there. I recognize it as being one of my biggest accomplishments because being able to work through that and to not only stay in the sport for 14 years, but also reach some of the highest levels of the sport, becoming a 4-time regional champion, competing at United States Challenge Skates competitions, and even getting to travel across the globe were some things I'm incredibly proud of being able to doing in the midst of all of this. On top of that, I now have the honor of getting to teach the next generation of young figure skaters, some who look like me as well, and it makes so much of a difference for me to be able to go to a job every day and be that advocate for little girls who might be having the same feelings that I had when I was at that age and that stage in this sport. I hope that this video has been able to communicate my feelings of pride around my experience in figure skating, but also send a clear message about the issues that we have in sports like this. Thank you for listening to this video, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.